their meeting, approved the payment to Steve Warwick.
Yes, they did.
They approved the payment. Because it was over $10,000, it went to a town meeting to determine where the money would come from, if we could transfer the money from the contingency fund to the,
Line item.
to the wages of the selectmen's, budget. That was what the vote was on, not whether to pay Steve or not. It was whether to transfer the funds that were already approved to pay Steve to the, contingency, from the contingency
Excuse me.
fund to the,
Yes, Mr. Hamilton.
The discussion that took place that evening, which there was a town meeting, it was explained, even though it was attempted not to have any discussion surrounding it, that the purpose of the request from the Board of Finance was to pay accrued vacation and/or sick time to Mr. Warwick. Everybody there understood that. As a, trust me, everybody there
That man
understood
didn't.
that. Yes, he did.
no, he just said he didn't understand.
Well, I didn't, I misquoted, but I think transfer of funds, that's what I meant.
No, you said whether to pay or not, which I think is a lot of people's problem.
Frankly, let me tell you something, if we owe the money, pay them, just get it over with. Just as simple as that.
Couldn't agree with you more.
I'm
Yeah,
dead
but my
set
point
against-
is, why
Yeah.
do we sit in a public meeting and lie to the public in regards to making payment prior to that public meeting? That's what bothers me more than anything else, Chris. I came to you after your first meeting, okay, and complimented you on how well it was run. Then I go to a town meeting where the voters have turned it down, and I subsequently find out that the check had been cut prior to that meeting. I'd like to know, did the other members of the Board of Finance, were they aware of that? Did members of the Board of Selectmen, were they aware of it? Was the finance director aware of it? Was the town treasurer aware of that? And at what point in time were they made aware of it? And how come that did not come forward that evening? I will quote you in one aspect. After the meeting, we sat in the back of the room and you stated the following: I guess I now have to send out a letter to all previous board first selectmen and request their money to come back. Have you sent that letter to Mr. Warwick?
No, I haven't sent it to any of the former first selectmen. But what's good for the
But
goose.
that's what you said that
What's
evening.
good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yep,
So
I
if we do
totally
that, then
agree.
we'll do that.
Totally agree.
Mr. Glazier.
Yes, Douglas Glazier, 167 South Lane. I want to talk about the traffic and the relocation of the train station. 2 minutes is going to be tight for me to get everything in because I did a lot of study on it. The relocation of the train station, back from the south end up to the middle of town where it goes, it's being done not because we have a solution of traffic alleviation. It's being done because the former first selectman convinced Amtrak and DOT that that was needed to trigger economic development in the downtown area. That's questionable in itself, but that's another topic. But I'm going to say that the way it is now, with the 2 double tracks being built, and you got 26 trains coming through there every day, you're going to have a traffic nightmare on Main Street, and you're not going to be able to get traffic crossing from Windsor, East Windsor to Windsor Locks. That literally is almost going to come to a stop. And that's why DOT has already studied that. And that's why the suggestion was made to put that roundabout on Bridge Street or on the East Windsor side, because the traffic, they know the traffic is going to back up on Bridge Street all the way past Warehouse Point, Geisler's store, at least past there. So you say, well, the roundabout means you can turn around, go back up the street, and get onto I-91 if you want to come to Windsor Locks. That's what the roundabout is for. It's to get rid of the traffic line that's going to go all the way up Bridge Street, past Geisler's, and even further. Now, to say that that will not happen, I know it will happen, and the reason is that when you have the train station back up in the middle of town, as the train is coming from Springfield into Windsor Locks, it's slowing down. It's not a minute and a half or 2 minutes to a stop time. The train is slowing down. It has to slow down to come to complete stop. That takes time. That takes some minutes of time to do that. Then it stops at the train station, and now you unload the people. Now you're gonna load up back, new people are gonna come on. Now the train starts up, and then it goes past the Bridge Street gate, and then the gates finally go up. You're talking anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes for that period of time. Now, when I was coming across Bridge Street, I came up to the gates came down because a freight train was coming by. I timed it. It took 3 minutes for the freight train to go by, which is half the time that it would be for the train stop with the gates down. When the gates went up, I came out onto Bridge Street, onto Main Street, and the traffic was solid. All the way up Main Street in 3 cars past Elm Street. Solid traffic. Solid traffic on Main Street the other way. Solid traffic as far as I could see going back on Bridge Street. And that's only with 3 minutes of gate down time. You are good, and with it, that happened 26 times a day when the full train schedule is in effect. You're gonna have a traffic nightmare, and mark my words, I may not live long enough to the day will come to say Doug Glazier was right. You're gonna have a traffic nightmare. People would be going down to the town hall, down to the selectman's office and say, let's get rid of that train station, put it down the south end because the traffic is gonna be horrendous. But the study was already done. DOT knows it's gonna be a traffic nightmare, and that's why they're saying over in East Windsor is to build that roundabout. That roundabout, literally, and DOT says that's what it's for. It's for the cars that are backed up on Bridge Street to use the roundabout to go back up to I-91 and cross the bridge. I'm saying it's gonna be a traffic nightmare. I don't see any evidence. There's not solid evidence other than somebody's making up imagination. I don't see any solid evidence saying that in order for economic improvement to take place on Main Street, you need the train station up there. I have not seen anything solid evidence to that fact. So saying that not having the train station up there is gonna collapse economic development is totally wrong in my opinion.
Good job, Doug.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and I would imagine that means you would endorse the application to get more money to study this issue in a much more detail than
It's already been studied. DOT already did the study on this, Chris.
He probably
You can get it
endorsed-
from DOT. The Bridge Street is a state highway, and DOT already did the study there. They already did the study on traffic. It's gonna be a traffic jam, exactly like I described, and that's why they recommended a roundabout over there on Bridge Street on the East Windsor side. So you can get the study from I don't know why they're gonna just go through all that again. It's already been done.
I very much appreciate your comments, I think this is something that we all have to take a hard look at.
Yeah.
The last
I would
meeting I
not-
was at, the guy said bulldozer. That was the
Come on.
answer.
I will say that of the 3 developers that are currently engaged in a bidding war for the Montgomery building have all cited the relocation of the train station to the center of town as their #1 economic consideration in deciding to develop that building. So we'll take that for what it's worth, but that's the statement to me. Yes, Russian.
I'm Bob Forchetier, I'm the chairman of the Inland Wetlands Commission. I'm in a crisis mode here.
Okay.
We have 4 full members and 1 alternate, and we need 5 for quorum. And I'm gonna blame you if I don't have which happened 3 or 4 years ago, month after month, where we can't get 5 people, because you have held back on nominations. Are you listening to me?
I am, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of a way to solve your problem.
The Republican Party gave you 2 nominations a month ago, and you have tabled them every meeting. And I met with you on the 28th, and you told me elections have consequences. I'll take a lie detector
Yeah, I
test, you
have no
take
idea
one.
what you mean by
You
that.
said it to me, and you've been told by other people what to do and point at Democrats, and you said it to me. I don't care if they're Democrats, I don't care if they're Republicans, I don't care if they're independents. I need bodies, and I am not gonna go and have meetings where we don't have enough for a quorum, month after month, because you sit on nominations.
I would move for the nomination of Jim McGowan, or appointment of Jim McGowan to the Inland and Wetlands Commission. That was one of the people that was, the names that was provided to us by the Democratic Town Committee at their last meeting. And so,
How
I'm
about
happy to do that
how about the
this
two Republicans that were nominated a month ago?
It's not appropriate for this meeting. And
Well, he's appointing somebody right here, right now.
I believe it has to be on the agenda.
That's right, but he's doing it.
we could amend the agenda, I suppose. It's not too late, I guess. Well,
I mean, I thought the town was
you
coming
want a
together.
body now or you not?
Huh?
You want someone now or not?
I really don't.
All right. And,
Next week.
you know, I don't know what to tell you. I understand the problem that you seek, that you
I mean,
face.
I can't believe we're told by others what to do. That really kills me. And you're gonna nominate, because somebody's a Democrat or Republican, you're gonna refuse them?
You can't believe I was told by others what to do.
That's what you told me. You were told by others what to do.
Of course I'm told by others what to do. The Democratic Town Committee and the Republican Town Committee. That's the way it works.
Yeah, but it's your decision.
My decision. But there's Democratic seats, there's Republican seats. We have to make sure the balance is accurate. This is the way it's done. This is not
Is this
some.
a Democrat or Republican seat that's open?
There's a lot of Republican seats open. There's a Democrat alternate open. There's only one Republican on the commission, and that's me. And there's one alternate that's a Republican, that's
My
it.
understanding generally, the chair of either board, either the Democratic Town Committee or the Republican Town Committee would present a name to the selectmen to be nominated to the board.
They have, the Republicans have submitted
Okay.
a month ago. And it gets tabled every month, or every meeting, excuse me.
But,
And the Democrats are in the process, right?
yeah,
Okay, was there
they've
an
some
actual
names.
deadline with regards to submitting that?
There's no deadline, but we've asked them to get them their names, us their names as soon as possible. I don't know what else we can do.
Yeah, the delay is really inexcusable. That's a difficult thing when you have a small board like that and can't afford to.
I think it should be on the quality of the person and not the party to which they belong to.
I agree with that. Unfortunately, that would mean a break with Windsor Locks
Tradition.
tradition from time immemorial. So, you know, I'm just not about to do that at this point and risk the ire of both political parties. I just don't think it's prudent to do. Like I said, I agree with you. It's about the quality of the person.
I mean, I'm on another commission and we're all, you know, we don't take politics in our decisions. But
All I can promise you is that I will put as much pressure on the chairman of the Democratic Town Committee to get me a list of names of his nominees as soon as possible. We will look at the positions that are open, do a calculation of which seats are Democratic seats and which are Republican seats, and we will make recommendations and appointments as soon as possible.
What about independent?
If the independents are approved, they will be, and
Yeah,
are
we did
considered. They will be considered. But, you know, unfortunately, this is the process that we've done for years, and it's a process that I imagine will just continue. I know you're under the gun, and were it not for the events of the last week and a half, I may have had more time available to do these things. But, you know, I'm putting in 14-hour days as it is.
I just don't wanna hold the bonds to release the
Yes, well, yeah, if we could, with this, we put this on the agenda at the next Board of Selectmen meeting, and we'll resolve it. And I'll even go as far as saying, if we don't have all the names that are planned to be submitted by either party, we'll go forward on the names that we do have. Yes, sir, Mr. Tom Lawrence.
Yes, Peter Tom Malone, 69 Juniper Drive. Mr. Kervich, just a quick question. Are you under threat of bodily harm or anything like that?
I'm not aware of that.
Is anybody in this room that feel that way?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. You know, it's a crazy world. You know,
Yeah, okay, well, okay, let me ask you the final question. Did you direct 2 officers to be here for an hour and 15 minutes?
No, I did not.
Whose control does that come under?
I think that the police department themselves makes.
Okay, in other words, 2 officers have been pulled off the road to stand around here for an hour and 15 minutes, but they're not protecting anybody here, although we have a whole town out there to protect. Just my question, that's all.
Thank you. Any other, oh, yes.
I'll make it very quick. The main reason for moving the train station from where it used to be down to across from Public Works was for one reason only. Traffic jams. That's why it moved south to start with. Now we're saying, let's bring it back and recreate traffic jams. I don't get it.
Well, some people are of the mind that traffic is a good thing.
Pardon?
Some people are of the mind that traffic is a good thing.
Not when they can't.
You ever said that?
Not when it's not willing.
Drive through Springfield and
Just while we're still here at the meeting, I just wanted to mention one thing to Chris. Regarding the payout to Steve, what I'd like to see is a breakdown of what he was paid out. Payouts have been happening for first selectmen for years. There's plenty of selectmen who have left their positions and gotten payouts. I just would like to get a breakdown of what that
Yeah,
payout
it's
compromises.
included in your packet.
Is it broken down by
It's broken
sick
down
time?
in the letter. Yeah,
You
by,
negotiated, you said, so I'm wondering what was negotiated in that deal.
yeah, there's 3 components.
Mhm.
There's the accumulated
Sick time?
sick time.
Yep. How many days was that?
That's capped at
45?
45
Yeah.
days after 10 years of
Mhm.
service.
Mhm.
There's the, for lack of a better term, fabulous parting gift that all outgoing elected officials receive, as well as full-time employees, if they serve to an anniversary date. Because the way our town regulations work, ridiculously so in my opinion, is that upon your anniversary, you're awarded 2, 3, 4 weeks, as the case may be. In the case of
Paid time off, paid time, or vacation?
vacation time.
Yep.
And in the case of an elected official, that means you always, because you're elected for a term of years, you always get an award of vacation time on the time that you're on your way out. So at the same time that you leave, you get 2 or 3 or 4 weeks of vacation that you can never use, because you're leaving at the same time. You know, how that ever got to be in play is beyond me, and I think it's a crazy rule. But it is a rule, and all 6 of the last first selectmen have benefited from that rule, not to mention the outgoing tax collectors, not to mention, the outgoing town clerks.
Yep.
So it's something that we just have to look at and change.
Yes.
But that's the way that it is, so.
Because that's not budgeted, none of this is budgeted.
Yeah, well, I mean, theoretically, you, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So when we pay it out, it comes from contingency or it comes from.
Right, right. I mean, theoretically, if you knew someone was leaving, you could, in enough time, you could. But, if it's an elected official, usually they don't announce they're running until around July or so, and the budget's already done. And they, even if they run for election, they could lose. And so you always get this crazy situation where you're awarded a chunk of vacation time that you can never use right at the time you leave. And I've committed to the Board of Finance that this board is going to do everything in its power to look at that, review it, and try and change it. So, but there's the third component. Okay, there was a third component about the carryover of vacation time.
Right.
And based on the records that were available at the time, it looked like his claim was for as many as 7 weeks of carryover time. After I did some research and looked into the minutes and the various things, I told him that I questioned that. I said, I'm not sure I get to the same point as you. And we went back and forth, and ultimately, we agreed that I said we would be willing to pay 3, and he said he would agree to that if payment was made immediately. So that's, it was shortly, I think it was the same day that I appeared before the Board of Finance and laid this all out to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance then, to a man, said, we agree, we owe this money. To a man, we agree we owe this money. And maybe because I'm naive, maybe because I'm just a believer in, good faith, I said, okay, all right, great. But then the issue came up about whether or not it should go to a town meeting. Again, it goes back to this dispute, this lingering dispute about whether it needs a town meeting or not. The Board of Finance said a town meeting was required to authorize the transfer, and I said, fine, we will go to a town meeting to authorize the transfer. The language of the call to town meeting is very specific, that the issue before that town meeting was whether or not to make a transfer from the contingency fund to the line item in the first selectman's salary. It had no reference whatsoever to the issue of whether or not Mr. Wawrucks should be paid for that time. Because one, that's not a decision that the Board of Finance by charter can make. It's also not a decision that the town meeting can make by charter. The Board of Finance is a budgetary authority. They don't make the decision.
Well, the reality is if they don't approve it, it doesn't get paid.
If they don't approve the transfer, then it may restrict the amount of money in that line item of the budget, and then I would be unable to make further, I can't overspend that line item. So to the extent that they underfund a particular line item, then they get to make the call. But it's really regarding to the transfer, not to the ultimate issue of whether or not it should be paid. And that's the huge difference that people don't seem to be getting. There's two things going on here. The issue of whether or not he should be paid, which is an issue that's decided by me as the Chief Executive Officer of the town of Windsor Locks. And it was an issue that I can tell you that was not made lightly. It was made after a week of investigation, but the issue of whether or not the transfer should be made is a different issue entirely.
I understand what you're saying, and I don't have an issue, and Steve would never believe that I would say this, but I don't have an issue paying Steve for the time that he was due. I have an issue that it was an unauthorized payment to him.
Why do you say unauthorized?
Because it wasn't made from the town meeting. It wasn't made by the body that has the right to approve those transfers.
That's where I
I know we
respectfully
disagree.
disagree.
We disagree,
The-
but
that
it's
they
still
don't- they-
funding.
It's not the town meeting's responsibility to authorize the payment. It's the town meeting's responsibility to decide whether or not to make the transfer.
But we transfer money between budgets through a town meeting often.
Right, transfer,
Yeah.
right.
But you were taking it out of payroll and doing a direct payment out, which to me is.
Well, but I had the money in the payroll account. There was sufficient funds in that line item in the budget to
So
make the
you
payment.
felt by doing that, you were authorized as first selectman to make that payment and write that check?
Well, if the line item is for selectmen's salary and wages, and you make a payment to a selectman for salary and wages,
Mhm.
then, yeah, you're authorized.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
understand.
I mean, that's my thinking
Yeah.
on it.
So in the past, and I know you probably did do some research, but how were these payments to other previous selectmen who received payouts?
They just got paid. It's their wages,
Just
like anyone's
payroll just
paycheck,
gave
yeah.
it.
They didn't even go to the Board of Finance in most
Okay.
cases.
I just wanted to
Mr. Glazier
understand.
did, in his final month in office, I believe, he wrote a letter to
Yep.
the Board of Finance,
Explaining what he thought was due.
explaining what he
Yeah.
felt he was
Yeah.
due,
Yeah.
and asking them to authorize the transfer, not to authorize the payment, but authorize the transfer of the funds to cover that amount in his budget. And every first selectman who's served has done exactly the same thing, and in most cases, it didn't even go to the Board of Finance.
Mhm.
And the only thing that is a little different this time is because the amount involved exceeded $10,000. So to the extent you believe that charter provision applies, it brought the town meeting into play. But when I had come to the determination after a week or week and a half of research that this was the amount that we owed, when I went to the Board of Finance and all 5 of them said, yes, we agree that he's owed that money, then at that point, I had no problem making an authorized, the transfer from the account because I had that money in my account. The issue whether or not the transfer got made subsequently is an issue that was before the town meeting. I had no reason to expect the town meeting wouldn't, and I certainly had no reason to expect that the gentleman, some of the gentlemen who had said, yes, we agree it's due, would show up at the town meeting and not speak in favor of the transfer. What the heck, I mean, it's like, how that can even happen? So, there's a question of why you would say you agree it's owed, but then at the town meeting, sit on your hands and close your mouth. And in some cases, luckily, Mr. Grandilotti, I saw, who has, is obviously a man of character, he voted in favor, because that's what he was consistent with his position at the thing. But why would I ever expect that the Board of Finance, the men that just said, yeah, we agree it needs to be paid, would show up at the meeting and say nothing? So, hey, you live and learn. maybe I just put a little too much faith in people's
Well,
thing.
you shouldn't.
Excuse me, point of order, I'm speaking. So, that's why I made the transfer, because I had the legal authority to do so, and it was not, the transfer was the only, that's why I made the payment, because I had the legal authority to do so. Now, I also recognize that the outside chance that that the town meeting did not approve the transfer, then that would leave me with a projected shortfall in that line item in my budget. And although I thought that was maybe a 1 in 1,000 chance, I had actually thought that through and said, what would I do if that happened? I said, well, I've got an option. I know I can't overspend that account, so I either lay off Sue or essentially work for no pay. I'm not gonna lay off Sue, and that wouldn't give me all the money I needed anyway. So I decided to work without pay until the transfer ultimately goes through. Because I understand that I can't exceed the line item in the budget. So, okay. Yeah. Oh, is it time for the thing? Well, I just want, ma'am, I didn't mean to put you off. You had a comment, I'd like to hear it real quickly before we adjourn.
Well, it's just hard for me to, if it's about character, did you receive the same letter, or did the Board of Finance receive the same letter that Doug Glazier sent from Steve Wawrucks? I mean.
Yeah, to
I
answer your
think
question,
it's
I
important.
don't believe that they did.
Yeah, and it's really important to me as a voter in town that we not impugn other people's character, if you don't mind.
Okay,
Chris, I have one more comment I'd like to make, and I can be quick.
all right, selectmen's comments, okay.
Just to the point of the handbook, we have a copy of that, okay? Over the last few days, I've actually gotten South Windsor's handbook, I've gotten Enfield's. Suffield is way old too, so they're using Darien, so I have Darien. East Windsor only has 4 non-elected, non-union people, so they don't have one. So I have a baseline for when we can move forward, start looking at this.
Okay, thank you.
Am I going to be allowed to make my last public comment?
I'm sorry, we've already moved past the public comment.
Okay, I'll send you a letter, I'll send the chief a letter. I object to 2 police officers being here for an hour and a half. I want to know if any of the Board of Selectmen requested that they be here, and I don't believe it's the discretion of the supervisor who's standing there to come and sit here. A former chairman of the police commission used this kind of tactic to try and intimidate myself and another gentleman who sits here. And I think we're all adults here. We can conduct ourselves accordingly. There's absolutely no need. This is District 5. This
Thank you. I
area
understand.
here is a high problem area. And you have 2 officers, the supervisor, and another one. I thought I saw a third.
I understand your point.
Don't need him here.
Thank you. All right.
But you got the police commissioner too.